As a newlywed, I found myself being treated conveniently by my husband David, and used as a servant by my mother-in-law, leading to hectic days. Eventually, I began to question the situation and decided to pursue a divorce. Quietly preparing for this, I waited for the right moment to confront my husband with divorce papers. It was then that a stranger appeared. "You all should be ashamed. Know your shame," he shouted, causing both my husband and mother-in-law to panic. What will become of this situation? I confronted my husband, who acted all high and mighty despite me being a housewife with divorce papers, and an unexpected person appeared. My husband and I got together and married within 6 months of dating, a whirlwind romance. I never dreamed it would turn into a quick divorce like this. I am 24 years old, a housewife. My husband is 25 years old, an office worker. We don't have children. My kind and proactive husband always supported and guided me. For someone like me, who tends to be shy, it was comforting. Even before we got married, my husband wanted me to quit my job and become a housewife. His reason was that he wanted me to help his mother. He often said he wanted to make things easier for his frail mother. He was kind and cared deeply for his mother, but following him turned out to be a big mistake. His attitude changed shortly after we got married. After our marriage was registered, we moved to a new home. We were supposed to choose a date for the wedding ceremony and make preparations afterward. By the way, the new home was a house handed down to me by my parents. My parents moved to a 2-family house built by my sister's family and handed over the house we had lived in until now to me. Looking back, I felt uneasy about my husband's words from around this time.
"I would have preferred a newly built condominium over an old house, but if they asked me to live here, I couldn't refuse."
It was as if he was saying I have no choice but to live here. Even though it's called old, it's only about 30 years old. Still, it was renovated in a modern style to make it easier for us to live in. My father even covered the cost of the renovation as a wedding gift to us. Yet my husband didn't utter a word of thanks. It already smelled like emotional abuse. He values his own mom, but doesn't care about his wife's parents. The day after we moved, we went to visit my in-laws' house, which is about a 10-minute drive from our new home. There, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law lived together. It seems my mother-in-law's husband divorced her and left several years ago. When I reported that we had finished moving, my mother-in-law said, "Thank you for coming. You're very welcome here." She said that. But it wasn't as a daughter-in-law that I was welcomed. Immediately, my mother-in-law said, "Well, why don't you start by cleaning up your sister-in-law's room?" And that's how she started treating me like a maid. My sister-in-law is in high school. I knew my husband had a younger sister with a significant age gap, but it was the first time I actually saw her when she returned from school that day. My sister-in-law seems to be someone who can't keep things organized, and apparently it's usually my mother-in-law who cleans up after her.
"This must be tough on my frail mother."
My husband would say this, but my mother-in-law appeared energetic and articulate at a glance. After finishing cleaning my sister-in-law's room, I had no time to catch my breath. I immediately folded the laundry that had just been brought in and took it to the place my mother-in-law instructed. Just when I thought I could finally go home after finishing the chores,
"Since you're already here, let's have dinner together. Stephanie can handle the meal preparation,"
my husband said. I wanted to say not to decide things on your own, but at that time, I didn't really have many doubts. By the way, no one helps with shopping or meal preparation either. After a while, my sister-in-law came home, greeted briefly, and went straight to her room. It seems my sister-in-law is shy around new people. Even when the 4 of us had dinner together, I hardly heard anything from her. Not a daughter-in-law, but truly a convenient helper. After being treated that way from day one, Stephanie continued to work hard for her husband and mother-in-law. Where's the wedding talk? For the next day, my regular visits to my mother-in-law's began. Every morning I would go by 9 o'clock, then follow my mother-in-law's instructions to clean each room, the toilet, and the bathroom. After that, shopping and preparing lunch. After lunch, cleaning up. In the afternoon, folding laundry and taking it to the designated place. Driving my mother-in-law to and from outings, preparing dinner. Sometimes I could go home after finishing all that, but often I was asked to weed the garden or do more shopping. My mother-in-law had a lot to say about everything. "The seasoning is too strong. Are you trying to make me and my son sick? You don't know how to clean properly or fold laundry. I wonder what kind of upbringing you've had. If you have children, I'll be the one to discipline them. I can't entrust grandchildren to you. Despite muttering these complaints to my husband,
Mom is saying these things for your own good. Be grateful. Mom has it tough too. It seems my sister is still going through her rebellious phase.
These were the defenses he provided for his mother. If I tried to argue against it,
For a housewife who can't even do basic chores properly, you're the one at fault.
he would counter angrily. He's the typical energy-draining husband. At first I was like, is that so? I'll do my best, feeling somewhat energized. He's seriously a messed up husband. You don't need such a husband. Since you don't have children, there would be no problem in leaving him. Divorcing and working normally would be much easier. The online community also fiercely criticized him. Even so, when he's in a good mood, he treats me kindly. So I managed to deceive myself somehow and continue our marriage. Gradually, my husband's lifestyle became more extravagant. He went out drinking with colleagues, played golf on weekends. In addition to our shared compact car, he bought an expensive new car. We were supposed to save for when we have children, but his credit card bills made it impossible. If I vented even a little,
Don't act all high and mighty just because you're a stay-at-home wife. If you have complaints, let's just get divorced.
he casually waved around the divorce papers he has signed. By the way, my husband is by no means a high earner. We're able to indulge because we don't have to pay rent or a mortgage. Yeah, without any gratitude towards my parents, he bragged about this extravagant indulgence to my colleagues. On days when my husband goes drinking with his colleagues, I often receive late-night come-pick-me-up calls. If I go to pick him up, his colleagues, who usually join him, end up getting a ride home in the car as well. His colleague always apologized with a look of regret.
Stephanie, I'm truly sorry. I intended to catch the last train home on time, but the conversation got lively and...
To the apologetic colleague, David responded,
This is just how it is, right? This person is living off my earnings. You should get married soon, too.
And thus my husband inexplicably asserted dominance. As a result, the colleague gave a wry smile and lowered his head to me. It was a familiar pattern. Ugh, your husband is so infuriating. His coworkers are completely appalled. I don't think it would be fun to have a drink with him. That's right. Sometimes he calls me out at 3 or 4 in the morning. It's quite a hassle for his colleague too, right? When my husband goes out drinking, he always contacts me after work. Sometimes he calls just when dinner is ready, so I wish he would at least tell me in the morning if he plans to go out. It's such a waste to throw away the dinner I've made with effort. I've also requested this. And then my husband...
Then why don't you eat for 2? By the way, my mom said you should build up more stamina.
And with that, he said something outrageous. Are they both trying to make me obese? I didn't say that out loud. I just silently listened, and then...
You don't understand because you have little experience as an office worker. Whether I go out for a drink or not depends on the work situation that day. Besides, if invited by the boss, you can't refuse, right? At any rate, my boss says I'm a promising star.
I was so tired of hearing his bragging about what he would do when he get promoted. The only respite I could get was around the weekends. My husband, who has Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays off, always went drinking on weekends. So I didn't have any pressure to cook dinner, and I could spend my nights relaxing alone. Well, except for the late-night come-pick-me-up calls, so I couldn't drink alcohol, though. It's better for your husband not to come home at all right after we got married. What's the point of being married? You could be much more free and relaxed if you got divorced. Yeah, that's exactly right. It would be so much easier to just get divorced and work a normal job. Around 3 months after we got married, I got one more job at my in-laws' house. During this time, my younger sister was skipping school. She'd lock herself in her room, and if my mother-in-law scolded her, she'd retort angrily and cause a scene. It became my job to calm her down and listen to her. But compared to dealing with my mother-in-law and my energy-sapping husband, it was much easier. My sister-in-law wouldn't do anything, but at least she wouldn't say anything to me either. Taking care of her daily needs without any complaints was actually quite pleasant. When my sister-in-law was in her room, I felt relieved for my mother-in-law's constant demands, and I appreciated that too. Reclusive sister-in-law, good job. Is she on your side? But she's a high schooler, so she should handle her own affairs. Maybe these little respites were why I couldn't bring myself to divorce. While trying to deceive myself, I held on to a faint hope that if I tried a bit harder, my husband would finally acknowledge me. However, I finally began to question my own situation. It was someone close to me who made me realize that this wasn't normal. On my first Mother's Day after marriage, I bought a bouquet for my mother and went to my sister and brother-in-law's home. My parents and my sister and brother-in-law were delighted to see me. When asked why my husband wasn't with me, I casually brushed it off, saying it was due to work commitments. The scene at my sister and brother-in-law's home was shocking to me at the time. Maybe because I had started living alone when I entered a university, I had forgotten what family warmth was like. The warmth of being with family again after a long time was touching. My brother-in-law cherished both my sister and my parents dearly. Their banter with my father and mother was just like that of a real parent and child. My sister is pregnant, so it seems my brother-in-law is considerate in various ways. When her morning sickness is severe, he apparently helps with the housework. Ah, so this is what family is. For a moment I wondered if my husband would change once we had children, but my thoughts quickly changed. A child with a father and grandmother like that would be too pitiful. Thanks to that experience, I finally felt liberated. At the same time, a strong resentment towards my husband surged within me. All right, let's get a divorce. I'll discard that kind of husband from my life. From that day on, I steadily progressed with preparations for divorce. When I explained the situation to my parents and sister's family,
"Yeah, you'll have a divorce on your record, but it's much better than enduring and living like this."
they understood so easily. Of course, in front of my husband and mother-in-law, I played the role of the convenient daughter-in-law. I've been waiting for this. Lightning strikes the lousy husband. And the forum users were excited. I gradually organized my belongings, checked documents, and once I was reasonably prepared, I took action promptly. By this time, my husband had significantly reduced the number of times he went drinking compared to before. That day, I expected him to come straight home. However, I didn't prepare dinner. I was relaxing and eating out by myself. As expected, my husband hadn't gone out drinking. When I came back, he approached me in a full-on bad mood and said,
"What do you think you're doing? I had just come home after a long day at work."
This was just as planned, and he flew into a rage.
"Do you know what time it is now?"
It's 9 p.m.
"I called you several times. Why didn't you answer? Who were you hanging out with at this hour?"
I was having dinner alone.
"You're a genius at ticking me off, aren't you?"
Yeah?
"Huh? Yeah, my ass. I've been starving here waiting. Hurry up and make dinner."
I thought for sure it was a drinking party. There wasn't one today either. When I played dumb, my husband's face reddened even more and he started yelling loudly. But thanks to that, I could move on to the next plan. Anyway, I've already recorded this entire exchange on a voice recorder. Numerous words insulting and denigrating my character. I've kept them securely as evidence. Just this alone would suffice as grounds for divorce, but I still had more to do. Yes, it was time for revenge against my mother-in-law. We did it! Go all out! And the enthusiastic forum members cheered. The next day, as usual, I went to see my mother-in-law and recounted the exchange with my husband from the previous night. Upon hearing it, mother-in-law said, "Using abusive language and shouting is not right, but you're the one who's in the wrong for provoking it." She was still defending her beloved son. Thanks to that, I got a chance to blow up at her. So am I the bad one for doing things that lead to being shouted at? According to your reasoning, that's how it is, right? What do you mean by reasoning? That's what my mother-in-law asked. That's why my sister-in-law acts out. It's your fault for raising her the wrong way. Oh, you! How dare you! It's because of the way you raised her that she acts out, right? Please, stop this! Well, what else am I supposed to say? I'm just following her example, okay? That's when I went on a rampage. I messed up the room just like my sister-in-law did. My mother-in-law was all flustered, saying things like, "Oh no!" and "What's happening?" My sister-in-law showed up in the middle looking stunned. "Hey, stop just standing there. Do something about her." Ignoring what my mother-in-law said, my sister-in-law went back to her room. I returned home, leaving my mother-in-law bewildered, and after a while, my husband came back. Apparently, he had received a call from my mother-in-law and left work early. As expected, my husband looked furious. I positioned myself near the back door to ensure I could escape any time. "Welcome back. Did you leave work early? Are you feeling unwell?
Don't play dumb. You know why I am angry, right?
My husband trembled in anger.
You. What a terrible thing to do. Someone who can't respect their spouse's parent is unfit to be a wife.
But isn't it your mother who's being cruel?
What did you say? That's it. Enough. Oppose me and its divorce.
Inside, I shouted, yes. This line, this moment, I've been waiting for it.
Apologize to my mother right now. Get down on your knees. Otherwise, I'll really divorce you.
I handed over the paper to my yelling husband that I had prepared. Oh, fine. Here's the divorce papers. All that's left is your mother's signature. Once I get that, I'll submit them to the court. These were the divorce papers my husband had been dangling as a threat for a while. I had already signed them and got my parents to sign too.
Wait a minute.
I quickly retorted to my suddenly flustered husband. Why? Isn't this what you wanted?
That's not what anyone said. I mean, you're in trouble, right? You don't have a job in hand. How are you going to make a living without me?
Facing my unexpected counterattack, my husband started to fumble nervously. But his attempts to assert dominance with his I'm the man attitude were laughable. As I watched his comical display with a cool gaze, my mother-in-law barged into her home.
Mom, please listen to me.
Interrupting my husband as he sought help, I stepped forward in front of my mother-in-law. Mom, perfect timing. Could you sign this? As I said this, handing over the divorce papers, a stranger walked into the living room.
Huh? Dad?
My husband exclaimed. The man in the well-tailored suit was my husband's father and my mother-in-law's ex-husband. With a triumphant look, my mother-in-law turned to her ex-husband and he said, So this is that infamous, disgraceful woman. After causing such a ruckus in our home, now she's starting a divorce scandal? Who does she think she is, anyway? You should say something to her, too. At that moment, my father-in-law said,
Nice to meet you. I'm her son's father.
And he nodded to me. I returned the gesture with a slight nod. I thought the old hag brought in reinforcements, but it wasn't that.
Today I have come to apologize for all the rudeness of my son and wife,
my husband's father said. Hey, you! That's not what we agreed on. She was panicking next to me, but she was silenced quickly.
Quiet.
But...
Stephanie, I'm so sorry for the pain I've caused you. It's truly inexcusable.
Saying this, he lowered his head deeply this time. When I listened to the story again, I heard that my father-in-law rushed over after receiving a call from my sister-in-law. During occasional phone calls when he was worried about his daughter skipping school, it seems my situation came up as well. This time he interrupted his work to come here because... This is bad. My sister-in-law is losing it. This was the urgent request made by my sister-in-law.
I've been worried since I heard my daughter's story. Even though we're divorced, I still bear responsibility for neglecting my wife and kids.
So, taking responsibility himself, my father-in-law said this and signed as a witness on the divorce papers. And even now there's no sign of remorse from the two of them.
You guys should apologize to Stephanie too,
he shouted angrily. However, my husband was not a man of his word, and as soon as he opened his mouth, he started making excuses.
I don't remember doing anything to deserve a divorce. Sure, I asked Mom for help, but it was all for Stephanie's sake. Stephanie wants to be seen as a thoughtful wife too, right? But Mom says things like, don't let her boss you around. Anyway, why should I apologize? I give her living expenses and let her stay home. Isn't that enough?
And that's when I couldn't help but shout. Shut up! I'm not a housewife because I want to be. Didn't you say I haven't done anything to deserve divorce? Well, what about this? And then seizing the moment, I played back a voice recorder packed with evidence. I also played the recordings of my mother-in-law's bullying behavior towards me. Immediately, my husband and mother-in-law started to panic. My father-in-law's expression turned into a furious scowl in an instant.
You two, how dare you treat someone else's precious daughter like this? Shame on you.
His angry voice echoed through the room. My husband and mother-in-law mumbled apologies, clearly flustered. Unexpected reinforcements arrived, and your pent-up frustration cleared in an instant. Father-in-law, you're awesome. I'm glad your husband's father is a decent person. Your relationship with your sister-in-law had been tenuous, but she seemed like an ally now. That's what the online community said. My husband's father grabbed my husband and my mother-in-law's heads and lowered them to apologize to me. With no room left for excuses, my husband had no choice but to agree to the divorce. After thanking my father-in-law, I immediately went to the city hall and submitted the divorce papers. I also started the procedure to sell the house we currently live in. It's a house we renovated with the consent of both parents. When we discussed divorce, we agreed as a family to sell it. Afterward, I wanted to thank my sister-in-law, so I went to my mother-in-law's house one last time. Thank you. You really helped me. But I'm sorry I imitated you, sister-in-law. I apologized like that, and she responded, "It can't be helped with that, Mom. I think you held on for almost a year." And my sister-in-law showed an unusual smile. Not long after that, the divorce papers were accepted, and I was finally single. I was finally freed from those two devils. Congrats on your divorce, you did it. Your sister-in-law must have had a tough time too. Actually, she might be the most level-headed one of all. That's good. I'm sure you'll find someone better next time. And so the online community cheered me on. I was so happy to finally be single, but the two people who had dumped me were still clinging on. It was so annoying. I was staying with my sister and her husband for the time being. I started looking for a job right away. But those two devils were even more persistent than I thought, and my ex-husband kept sending me, "You were the only one for me" emails. My ex-mother-in-law kept sending me "I need you" emails. Feeling annoyed, I blocked her emails. Surprisingly, my ex-mother-in-law then came over uninvited to my parents' place. I wasn't home at the time, but according to my mother, my ex-mother-in-law appeared to show no signs of remorse whatsoever. Filing for divorce without my son's consent is just too much. And selling off the house without permission? Certainly we're not blameless either, but I've apologized profusely. My son is mentally distressed. I'm tempted to demand compensation. That was from my ex-mother-in-law. At first my mother seemed surprised, but then she laughed in disbelief. However, to avoid further intrusions,
"I don't think she'll back down quietly. Call me immediately if anything happens,"
my father-in-law had said, giving me his phone number, and I reported the situation to him. As a result, it seems my ex-mother-in-law received a severe scolding from her own ex-husband. Consequently, both my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law are prohibited from approaching me. My ex-husband has to pay compensation to me. The allowance my ex-father-in-law was providing to my ex-mother-in-law has been significantly reduced. These three directives were imposed by my ex-father-in-law. Interestingly, it appears my ex-father-in-law grew tired of my ex-mother-in-law's arrogance and decided to divorce her. After much nagging, my ex-mother-in-law finally agreed to a settlement where she would receive alimony for my sister-in-law and a significant amount of spousal support. Of course, for my ex-father-in-law, a company executive, this was a much easier arrangement than continuing the marriage. As a result of this agreement, my ex-father-in-law took custody of my sister-in-law. I heard that my sister-in-law later transferred to a distance learning high school. My ex-husband returned to his mother's house. If the two of them don't obey my ex-father-in-law's orders,
"I'll completely cut off their living expenses,"
he said, threatening them with that. Also, I heard a funny story from my ex-husband's colleague, whom I coincidentally met during job hunting. Apparently, my ex-husband became the laughingstock at his company. He's the pitiful man who got left by his wife. It seems my ex-husband changes his attitude depending on the person at work. He was boasting to his colleagues and subordinates. The decrease in the number of drinking parties probably made everyone drift away from him because of that. So with his great pride, my ex-husband found it uncomfortable at work and resigned voluntarily. Now he doesn't even have a job, but has to pay me compensation. My ex-mother-in-law also can't live luxuriously due to the reduction in living expenses from my ex-father-in-law. She seems to lead a modest life. Thanks to that, there are various rumors circulating in the neighborhood, and now I've secured a job, so I feel relieved. I'm also looking for an apartment and will move soon. Since my ex-husband's colleague works in real estate, I trusted him to find a suitable place, and he found a place that meets my requirements. When I coincidentally met him in town, we had a lively conversation which led to discussions about job hunting and apartment searching. I don't want to think about marriage for a while, but somehow I'm maintaining a good relationship with him. Colleague. Marriage didn't work out, but Stephanie is blessed with good people around her. That's great. I wish you happiness. And so the online community were relieved too. But that's the end of my story. Thank you for reading until the end. This time, Stephanie's decision to divorce led to unexpected helpers appearing, resulting in her husband and mother-in-law receiving ample punishment. Furthermore, her husband's inappropriate behavior outside led to him becoming a laughingstock within the company, further damaging his reputation. Stephanie's decisive actions surely brought relief to various people associated with her husband and mother-in-law.